You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button.
ESPN has an article up right now where they lay out the path for each team remaining that has a chance at making the college football playoff. And they list 8 teams, and the 8 teams are just in order: Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, as you'd expect, TCU, Tennessee, LSU, Southern Cal, and Clemson. Now, for whatever it's worth, the ESPN playoff predictor does give Clemson does give Utah like about a 4% chance of making the playoff. So a 2-loss Utah could still win the Pac-12. So I guess an outside chance if there's just utter chaos, maybe, but highly unlikely. For LSU at 8-2, they talk about the path to the playoff, which is obvious. Win the SC, you got to win out. You got to win the SC championship game, and that came a step closer Saturday when they clinched the West. They mentioned, if LSU beats Georgia to win the conference, it would have 3 CFP top 25 wins: Georgia, Bama, Ole Miss, and don't count out Florida State as well, which could potentially finish the season ranked in the top 25. And and then you throw a potential win over Georgia in the SC championship game, and that would potentially help catapult LSU into the playoff. There are, I don't think that it is as necessarily cut and dried as LSU winning out and getting in. I think LSU is going to need some help, and thankfully this weekend they got some help by way of Washington beating Oregon. So, and I understand the overwhelming majority of you are listening, not watching, and I'll have diagrams written up here to show you any of this anyway, but LSU's path to make LSU's case stronger, you need chaos. And you got some help with that. You need as many 2-loss Power 5 conference champions as possible, because obviously if LSU beats Georgia and wins the SEC and is a 2-loss Power 5 champion from the SEC, LSU is going to get in over other 2-loss champions. The question becomes, would a 1-loss Power 5 champion from another league get in over LSU? That's the question. So, had Oregon run the table and won the Pac-12 and were 12-1, and their only loss would have been a season-opening loss to Georgia all the way back in week 1 when they went across the country, my belief is that Oregon as a 1-loss team would have gotten in. Provided you didn't have 4 unbeaten teams, which you wouldn't because Ohio State and Michigan are going to play each other. So Oregon losing helps tremendously. UCLA losing to Arizona also up because UCLA still has a path to the Pac-12 championship. USC is the only remaining 1-loss team in the Pac-12, so you need USC to take another loss. And maybe that loss could come this week against UCLA. They also play Notre Dame next week, and then they'd play potentially the Pac-12 championship game. So if USC takes one more loss and you were guaranteed a 2-loss Pac-12 champion, which LSU would best a 2-loss Pac-12 champion. You would really, 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 really like to see Clemson lose another game as well. Because a 1-loss Clemson, although its resume is not impressive, because of the name on the marquee and the respect that Clemson has earned, I'm not saying this team has earned it, but that program has earned it, a 1-loss Clemson would likely get in. They have a win over then number 21 Wake Forest, and then number 14 Syracuse, neither of which are ranked any longer. So, man, they have no wins over currently ranked teams. And they play Miami this week, and then South Carolina. Then they'll play North Carolina in the ACC championship game. So Clemson's resume is not strong. If Clemson gets in, it's solely on the back of being Clemson. Now, North Carolina is also a 1-loss team, but nobody's talking about North Carolina. You would love it if you had a 2-loss ACC champion. that would be, or if North Carolina upset Clemson, because a one-loss North Carolina isn't going to get in because they're not going to get the same level of respect that a one-loss Clemson would. So that's what you're pulling for. You want a 2-loss Pac-12 champion and hopefully a 2-loss ACC champion. If you concede an undefeated Big Ten champion, either Ohio State or Michigan, and an undefeated TCU would get in. Now, TCU's not done. They still got some work to do. They're at Baylor. They play Iowa State. They'll play a Big 12 championship game as well. So they're not done. But if TCU's undefeated, they'll be in. So if you just assume the undefeated Big Ten champ and undefeated TCU are in, that leaves 2 spots. I believe a one-loss Georgia, if Georgia's only loss is to LSU in the SEC championship game, I believe one-loss Georgia is still getting in. The real question then becomes that final spot. And then you would have 2-loss SEC champ LSU. You would have 1-loss Tennessee, which pounded LSU in Baton Rouge. You would have a 2-loss ACC champion, a 2-loss Pac-12 champion, and lingering out there, the 1-loss loser of the Ohio State-Michigan game in the regular season. So how do you make sense out of all of that becomes the question. And it would be real easy for the committee if they had a 1-loss conference champion. So they could say, well, we're going to value conference championships this year. They would put in a 1-loss conference champion, which is why you need to root for chaos. Because LSU's best case is if you have a bunch of 2-loss conference champions so that that can't be held over them. The other scenario that would be terrible for LSU is Tennessee, which is currently ranked 5th. And I believe none of these rankings matter right now for a single lick. But if the committee looks at it and says, well, there was a head-to-head matchup and Tennessee won it, so we'll put Tennessee in, that's a possibility. I have referenced 2016 a lot. Penn State was a 2-loss Big Ten champion that beat Ohio State. And they put Ohio State in the playoff because they were a 1-loss team. Their only loss was to Penn State. The committee's going to decide to do whatever it wants to do. That's why I never put stock in the rankings when they come out every Tuesday. The only ones that matter are the last ones. In the meantime, what you have to do is pull for and hope for things that are going to make the committee's decision easier for your team. And for LSU, you just need a lot of chaos. You need a lot of 2-loss teams because ultimately what they're going to say is, man, LSU beat Alabama and Georgia and Ole Miss, and you played Florida State, another ranked team, and that was one of your losses were to ranked Florida State and ranked Tennessee. LSU would get the edge. They'd get the nod. But the key to that being a reality is you got to clear some space. And so you need a 2-loss Pac-12, a 2-loss ACC champion. And you would love to see TCU take a loss along the way as well. So we got about a month to go. And we do know is, of course, LSU is going to play Georgia in the SEC championship game on December the 3rd. And we will be there. Already having some meetings, planning all of the shows that'll be out there. So we're looking forward to being in Atlanta and hope to see a lot of y'all there as well for our coverage.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.